the 6 member states of the Gulf Cooperation Council. And 4 of them said, you know what, we're not coming. And as a matter of fact, one of them, instead of coming to sit down with the President of the United States at Camp David, he went to a horse race with the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. So when the President stands and talks about how great the respect that he has, brought back to the United States of America, ask Vladimir Putin, ask, the Ayatollah Khamenei, ask the ISIS fighters, ask, Boko Haram, ask the Taliban, ask Xi Jinping of China, who have built man-made islands and are emplacing artillery on those islands. And those islands are right in the transit of about 30% of the sea lanes of commerce for the world. We don't have regard and respect in the world because this president draws red lines and then all of a sudden they don't exist.
Well, Colonel, he said that we are now, once again, the most respected nation on the planet. So you're not buying into that one.
No, I'm not buying into that. And look, I grew up in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia. If a bully respects you, he doesn't pick on you. We are being picked on left and right. Our allies do not trust us. They have no confidence in us, and our enemies are emboldened. So, when I hear the president say these things, or, when I hear the president say that he is the closest to a Jewish president that has ever existed, I don't know what kind of mystical world President Obama is living in to say these things, because everyone knows they're not true. I mean, here's a president who sent campaign operatives over to work against Prime Minister Netanyahu. We know about the disregard and disrespect that he gave to him when he came over to give the joint session of Congress speech. We know about the fact that during the last conflagration against Hamas, President Obama threatened to cut off the supply of Hellfire missiles to Israel. So why is he sitting around trying to make us believe, things that we know are truly untrue?
No, well, he's just truly delusional. We had this type of leadership back in ancient Rome and Nero, where the man just went totally crazy. He was first.
Yeah, he was fiddling while it burned, and so we have a president that's golfing while our country and indeed the world is burning.
Doing the same thing, yes, modern times. Now, going back to the Middle East a little bit, you have our allies, as they are, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Egypt, and I do believe there might be a couple of others joining them soon, who are actually holding conversations with Israel in order to try to contain not only ISIS, but Iran.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, between Egypt and think about the fact that the Obama administration fully embraced Mohammed Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood government in Egypt, but since they were deposed by now President, former General El-Sisi, the Obama administration has really given Egypt a cold shoulder, and they're trying to stand up and fight. The UAE is standing up and fighting. Jordan, who after the horrific, heinous burning of their combat pilot, King Abdullah flew back and they started their attacks against ISIS positions, and they asked the United States for munitions and fuel for their fighters, and they did not get it. Egypt wants intelligence sharing. They're not getting it. Saudi Arabia, when they decided to bomb the Houthi rebels who are backed by Iran and Yemen, they basically gave the United States of America about, 2 to 4 hours of notice before they started those attacks. Now, I'm glad to see these countries stepping up to the plate, but the fact that they are, being disregarded and they are not coming to meet with the president, or they don't feel that they need to, say anything or let the American president know the actions that they're taking, that's a huge reflection of the lack of regard and respect that they have for our president and for this country right now.
Now, you're down in Texas and, on our southern border, and there's been a lot of talk about, now I know that Saudi Arabia is starting to build a wall in order to try to slow down and keep out ISIS out of Saudi Arabia. And we're not doing that. We're not building our wall. We're not securing our border, but yet we found that there's at least one, possibly two, and if there's two, there's definitely more bases, terrorist training camps on the Mexico side of the border. One of them, within 8 miles of our border. What is it gonna take for us to wake up? Are the states, is Texas and Arizona and California going to have to go this alone and secure the border themselves, or what's it going to take?
Well, unfortunately, it may take another catastrophic event. There is no doubt that by the Constitution, the states have the right to be able to secure their borders and secure their population, their people, and their citizenry. You look at the State Department that just put out the alert warning for all the violence that is going on down south of our border in Mexico, and, telling our consulates and even the embassy down there to be prepared. The Mexican drug cartels, as long as you have the money, they will do whatever you want, and they will provide the safe passage for militant Islamic terrorists to come across our very porous border to get into this country. And when you talk and understand that the Border Patrol is operating, some 50 or 60 miles back off the border, that's not how you secure a border. You secure a border by being on that border, having good eyes and surveillance on that border at critical crossings. And we do need to have some type of barrier that can canalize and channelize people into certain areas where we can have the proper amount of aerial and ground surveillance, and we're not doing anything of the nature. As a matter of fact, the report just came out today that the administration has released some 3,700 threat level 1 illegal immigrants. These are violent felony type of individuals, and this is the type of thing that they say they weren't doing, and then we find out they're doing. It is, again, Rod, you just wonder, whose side are these guys on?
Now, with the border being that open, and ICE telling us that they have operatives in at least 15 states, and we know that we've caught, like you said, some very violent people who aren't all Latino, by the way. Some of them have been Middle Eastern. Is it really likely now, especially with Iran having more nuclear material than we originally thought, is a real and present danger now of a dirty bomb being entered into the United States and detonated?
Well, of course it is. It's not just into the United States. It's anywhere in any major Western civilizational capital or population center. And, so many people are under this belief that it has to be some, Oppenheimer type of nuclear bomb, much the same as dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But if someone can put a device in a suitcase and detonate it in, Dallas or in any major urban center, that's very effective. But even more so, we just wrote an op-ed piece here from out of the NCPA about the threat of electromagnetic pulse. What happens if from a ship you can shoot and detonate a nuclear device in the high-level atmosphere, let's say over the East Coast? I hate to tell you, Rod, that knocks out your power grid right now that we are not doing anything to protect or secure. And so those threats are very viable. And these are the type of things that we need to have an administration, thinking and talking about. Instead, we have Hillary Clinton in Houston, Texas, talking about voting rights when minority voting rights have increased since the 2008 presidential election. And we have a president who is, talking about now, I just read the report, that we're going to resume releasing unlawful enemy combatants from Guantanamo, which you would have thought after these 5 Taliban that they scrambled to, get them to stay in place in Qatar, we would freeze any of this releasing from Gitmo. But that's not what you do if you're an intransigent ideologue.
No, yeah, I have, I'm beside myself trying to figure out this current president, and I'm a little beside myself in trying to figure out who the Democrats are trying to put forward. They have a very weak field, I believe, as far as what they're putting forth. Yeah.
It's an extremely weak hand. If they were playing poker, they are in real trouble. And I think that they're starting to understand that. I mean, if you go over and read some of the lefty blogs and everything, they're not really warmed over to Hillary Clinton. And a lot of the information that is being leaked out on her is not coming from GOP sources. It's coming from the left because they want someone that is more so, along the lines of the Elizabeth Warren. They want to run what I call the political gimmick candidate, the first of something, the first black president, the first female president. But they want someone that's going to continue on this far-left progressive socialist agenda that President Obama has set us upon.
We are. I guess the Democrats are in trouble. At least I hope so. Come election time, Colonel. I know you have to run. One last question. It's kind of a sneaky question. Would you consider in the future running for president of the United States of America?
Well, look, I always tell people that, I live my life as best I can by, the words in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through 6, where it says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart, lean not upon your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will guide your path. So, I will be obedient to God and country, and however I can serve this great nation. And if the country needs a really good street sweeper, I'm happy to do that. If it needs a good dog catcher, I'll be happy to do that. I don't know what the future holds for me, and who would have ever thought last year in October I would get a phone call asking me to consider being the president and CEO of this incredible 31-year-old policy center out here in Dallas. So we don't know.
All right. Sir, I really appreciate you joining me here this evening. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we definitely will get a chance to meet when you come up here in October. I really look forward to it.
Yeah, I look forward to that. The 9th and 10th of October, I'll be up there in New Hampshire, and I think Nashua, and then also let's stay in touch and let's do this again.
I would love to. Thank you very much, Colonel. Have a great night.
Thanks, Rod.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, retired United States Army. Really appreciate him giving me the time this evening. And some of the things that he talked about, and look, I've been telling you this before, and now you can start to hear it. It's not just coming from me. We have a porous border. We have a weak president who's nothing more than now at this particular juncture, a Nero-esque type of person. He's out there playing golf and basketball all the time, and he's delusional in his thinking that we're now the most respected nation on the planet. I still have no idea where that came from. I am sure that his administration, his handlers, were probably sitting back, in the background, doing a face palm when he said that. People always talk about how stupid George W. Bush was as president. And let's face it, the man was not stupid. But I know that there were plenty of facepalm moments with George W. Bush. So the man was not Ronald Reagan when it came to communicating with the public. He wasn't a wordsmith, let's put it that way. But he wasn't an idiot. Now, we have the same type of thing and same types of facepalm moments coming out of this president, but nobody on the left wants to call him stupid or out of touch. Yet he'll sit there and say that, we're the most, and it looked, when you're looking at the camera and he's looking at people, it looks like he really believes what he's saying. He's not just trying to placate people. That he really believes that somehow we're the most respected nation on the planet again. All the while we have ISIS thumbing their nose at us and telling us, well, we've got operatives in at least 15 of your states, and whenever we want to, we can probably attack and blow up some of your cities. You have China in the South China Sea building islands, as you heard Mr. Colonel West talk about, and putting cannons and airports for military aircraft to land on these islands, and throwing the entire South China Sea in an uproar, including Vietnam. Now, you got to remember, Vietnam was once an ally of China, and now China's doing these types of things, and even is kind of ticking off Vietnam. How do you tick off your own ally? Well, you tick off your own ally when you really don't have an ally, because all you're really trying to do is take over your part of the world. And that has always been Mao's, objective, much as it was, Lenin and Stalin's objective to take over the Western Hemisphere and in Western Europe with the Soviet Union. And those types of factions, now we have that type of faction in Islam where they want to take over the entire world and have a caliphate all over the planet. And those are the types of people that we have to deal with on a daily basis that our president just doesn't seem to get and think are, dangerous to us. Look, hey, 20% more, processed nuclear product in Iran than we previously thought. And I bet you, even though I'm not a betting man, I bet you, a nickel to Sunday, that if we actually were able to do a full scope investigation within the borders of Iran, we would find that they have more than 20% more than we originally thought. They probably have a lot. In fact, they're probably closer than we think to having a nuclear bomb, no matter how small. And that doesn't bode well for anybody in the West, folks. Nobody. But yet, we're still the most respected nation on the